Hello and welcome back to Vintage Treasures. I don't know if this is going to be a review technically or more of a rant. I have quite a lot of words for this figure. We have the 1988 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles foot soldier here, of course, released by Playmates and Mirage Studios, and it's accurate color-wise to the cartoon, but as far as design goes and sculpting, it's more accurate to the comics. You might be wondering what I'm talking about when I said that this might be a rant video. The foot soldier is a piece of, it's a piece in a lot of people's collections that is very controversial, and usually only internally in individual collectors, and it's not talked about a whole lot. But these things are just ugh, okay? Um, they're expensive because people army build them, which wouldn't really be an issue because you could pick one up, but they fall apart. I've had foot soldiers fall apart in my hands when I'm lightly dusting them, and these things aren't getting any younger, so it's just been a pain to get these. It's to the point where I got this one for 40 bucks with one of these little things. And that was a deal. That was a good deal. That's where we're at this point. And this is a standard foot soldier, okay? You need this for your collection. Well, I guess you don't need it, but you should probably have this in your collection if you have a basic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection. So it's a pretty dire piece, and one that should be fairly common and fairly cheap because, well, it's a main character. The figure itself isn't too bad. The colors are nice, it pops, it's very 80s, 90s transition, and it looks very nice, and I don't want to move him too much because I'm afraid he's going to disintegrate in my hands a lot, but we can get a couple looks at him from the other sides. If I just turn him a bit, his legs want to buckle. That's another thing I want to talk about, is look at this. If I could even stand him up, because it is hard to stand this guy up, even on a shelf. Like, let me hold him up. That's how he stands, okay? That is definitely not a good stance for a figure. I mean, Shredder's even worse, but this is pretty bad. The prices on this thing, as I said before, have gotten so bad that army building this thing at this point, if you don't already have an army, is next to impossible. Yeah, and you can see I have three of this hook thing, this little hook they grabbed the turtles with, because he's just so darn expensive. I won't be able to get my hands on three of them. Not that I need three of them, but it's nice to have them around. Yeah, it's just a pain with this. So yeah, let's talk about him toy-wise, and then we could talk about him from a collector's perspective. So as a toy, this figure is good until it breaks, of course, which I don't know if that's like a universal problem. I've seen it happen a couple times and people post about it, so I'm guessing it's pretty universal. Also, the way that this is put together and how he sits, or how he stands, I guess, it's not very good. I mean, he had to fit in the bubble. That's how they did it in '88. They had one universal bubble, so he had to fit in there. Same with the Shredder, and they're quite tall compared to the Turtles, so they had to make them basically kneel down a little bit, which does not stand too well when it comes to the figure. But I don't have all his accessories because they're more expensive than the figure sometimes in sets. So he came with a knife. I guess I can compare it to Rocksteady's knife here, which I think is actually the same color as the one of the releases of it, which is something I want to talk about a bit later. If it'll focus, you can see that that's just your regular standard Turtles knife. They released that for Trag, for the Foot Soldier, for Rocksteady. But one thing I did want to show is the accessories before we get into the collector's perspective of this figure. As far as this figure goes, as far as like playing with it, it's It's a 4.5. It's really not that good. I only got it because I needed it to get closer to the complete run of the 88 figures. But we have three of the accessories here, and we're gonna go through them and look at the differences, the variations in not only the color but the sculpting. So right here we have two of the hook things for the foot soldier, and of course they're different in color, but they have the exact same tooling. So I'll put this darker one aside because I have this other lighter one, and if you look at the butt end of this thing, the sculpting is definitely different. That ball up there is definitely a lot bigger than this one down here. So I'm guessing they retooled this, but why? Why would they do that? Maybe the original mold broke or something, but there's like very slight differences. I think this is a bit bigger here, this little bumpy part at the bottom, than this one, yeah, right there at the top. It's like very slight differences that you barely notice when you look at it, but you can see that that's just three variations right there, and I only have three, so you can only imagine how many variations of these there are. So let's talk about this figure from a collector's standpoint. And for that, I say, gross. I don't like this figure very much, okay? As I've said before, I probably wouldn't have it if I didn't need it to get closer to completing my 88. But it's a bad figure. It doesn't stand up well. The colors are very general, which I get. They're accurate. I get that, but he just doesn't even make up for it in accessories. I mean, you have this stupid claw thing. Then you had like a rope, like a handle with a very thin piece of plastic, the same thinness as Michelangelo's nunchucks in the original run, and then you had this big engine-looking thing at the end, which I don't know what the heck that is. I'm guessing it's supposed to be like a mace, almost. But it doesn't look anything like a weapon. It looks stupid, and he's meant to bend in his hands. I'm sure you've seen it before. And then he comes with a knife. I mean, it's very lackluster. And as far as a collector goes, you can army build other things than foot soldiers. There's things from Dimension X like Trag, and there's things from Dimension X like the Triceratons. So army build those. They're cheaper, they're easier to find, they're not gonna bust in your hands while you're just trying to dust it. And the accessories are better. So I think if you're gonna army build something in Turtles, this guy is not it. But at the same time, I think if you are collecting Turtles, you're eventually gonna have to run into a wall where you need to buy this figure. I mean, he's very crucial to the series, the cartoon, the figures, playing with the toys. He's just very important. Even if you're like setting up a diorama of these figures, you're eventually going to need this figure. So in that sense, you have to buy the figure eventually. Also, I wanted to mention common problems with this figure, other than him falling apart in your hands, is the foot soldier logo. I think I had an 88 before. It was very light, but that's not really a problem. That's just how they were made. These things, keep an eye out. These things always fall off, and they're never in the listing. The leg joints, if they're in the littlest bit loose, they're a little bit loose, this guy won't stand up for nothing. He's already hard enough to stand up the way it is. I don't even want to move his arms, to be honest with you. Then there's the knees, of course, which bulge out pretty far. The tips of his toes, his heels, his rear end, and I guess look for cracking in the... Because that's what happened. It cracked here and just went up. So keep an eye out for cracks, and don't move him as much as I've moved him in this video, because he will fall apart in your hands. If you're gonna dust him, try to keep him stationary, and if you can't, you're taking a big risk with this figure. but I think he is crucial to the collection. And as far as collectors goes, I have to give this figure a 3. He's just not very good. There's nothing making up for the appearance of him and his bent knees to fit in the packaging. In the accessories, there's nothing to make up for that. He's expensive. He's army built, so that's why he's expensive. Which I don't have a problem with army builders. It's just that, you know, it is expensive, and it's something that I have to consider when bringing up a score for this guy. So yeah, it's a 3. It's not a very good figure, but I think it's necessary if you're gonna say that you have your Turtles collection done to what you want in your collection. If you enjoyed today's video, by the way, I don't usually make rant videos when I do my reviews. I usually pretty thorough and professional with them, but this is just a figure that is very near and dear to, I wouldn't say near and dear, but I'd say pretty stands out in the whole line as a pain in the butt to obtain and to keep. So yeah, I make content about Turtles, He-Man, Ghostbusters. If it's a vintage toy or even vintage movie, I likely want to show it on my channel. And when I do obtain these items, I'll show them off. Yeah, it's just a hobby. I don't get money from this, and I just find it very interesting, and I love interacting with the community. So leave a comment on what your favorite Ninja Turtle figure is, and have a great rest of your day or night, and goodbye.